Welcome back to Cryptos Are Us. I am George. We're all George. So, good morning. Welcome to another Market Open stream. It's looking red for U.S. markets, but it's looking green, very green for Bitcoin. And today I'm going to make a case why Bitcoin will breach $100,000, and there are more evidence of that today. So, let's talk about it, and let's talk about what else is going on in the world of crypto. Welcome, guys. The market bell is about to ring, and Bitcoin right now is sitting above 26,600. In fact, it breached 27,000 briefly, and there is the market bell. So Bitcoin is only gaining strength right now. I mean, it's up 6%. And look at the U.S. market today. It's about to open red, deep in the red. Why is that? Well, more banking fears. Credit Suisse, after getting their 54 billion loan from the Central Bank of Switzerland, well, that didn't help with confidence, at least to investors' confidence. They are selling them off right now, down 10%. Well, what about in the U.S.? What about First Republic Bank? They just got a $30 billion force injection from 11 major banks. What about that? That just happened yesterday, right? That should make investors feel better. Well, no, it didn't. And that is why it is down 17% right now. Okay, when banks are getting forced injections or getting loans from the Fed, that doesn't really boost up confidence, right? Like, do you really trust? If I was doing banking right now with First Republic, I'd be getting my money out. I don't care how much injections they get. I'd be getting money out, right? It's simple. When a bank is getting bailouts, it's not good. It's not good. And it's not just First Republic. Overall, it's been reported that the Fed had loaned out already $165 billion ever since SV Bank crashed and failed. $165 billion. This is within like a week. This is not this year. This is within a week. How high will that climb as more weakness and more failures come to light, right? We don't know. But the Fed is now in a position where they have to loan out money, and they're actually buying assets too. Their assets are going up. Now, you may be wondering why all of a sudden we're having all these banking problems, right? Why does it seem like it's 2008 again? Well, here's a really simple here's a really simple, I guess, explanation. Most of you guys, or some of you guys, I don't know, I didn't know this before, so I can't say most of you guys, but banks operate on a fractional, it's called fractional banking, because banks have always operated on this reserve ratio, which means that based on how much money they have, right, you need to keep a little bit of it, and the remaining amount could be used for loans. And the previous requirement for most banks was a tiny 10%. And that alone makes you think that they're too highly leveraged, right? When you take in $100 billion and you only need to keep $10 billion and you could loan out $90 billion, what could go wrong, right? That is already highly leveraged. But you know what? That's not the case. Since 2020, since the COVID pandemic, that reserve has been dropped from 10% down to 0%. And as of right now, in 2023, it is still at 0%. Banks that have more than, before it was like if you had more than like 127 million, you had to add 10% reserve. Banks going all the way up to the biggest ones in the U.S., I shouldn't say planet, in the U.S., have a reserve requirement of 0. They can lend out 100% of the money they take in. So what could go wrong, right? What could go wrong? Well, we're saying what could go wrong. When you take all that money, like SV Bank, and they bought 100% with it, 100% into bonds that are not worth anything, that's why they failed. That's the reason, because they had no requirements to keep anything. They put all of it and invested it all. Why doesn't this get changed? Why is Powell not changing this reserve requirement? Right? Since 2020 till now, it's still at 0%. And the banks got even more greedy because they're not just taking your money and loaning it out or investing with it. They went to the Fed and borrowed more. So if you put $1, they go borrow $10 from the Fed. You put in $1 million, they go borrow $10 million. You put in $1 billion, they go borrow $10 billion. That's what they have been doing up until 2022, and that's when the rates start going up, and they kind of stop doing that because they don't want to pay interest. But think about it. You could have borrowed money at 0% interest. Why would you not borrow billions or trillions at 0% interest? That's what they were doing. That's why we're having this problem, because they have zero requirements, zero reserve requirements, and they borrowed godly amounts. We don't even know how much, right? That's the problem. But you know what? No worries, because Janet Yellen says the banking system is sound. There's no worries. U.S. citizens are confident that they can withdraw at any time. So, as long as we have her assurance, we're good, right? We're good. But you know what? Of course, I'm just picking on the U.S., but I just saw this today. China is doing the same thing. They're cutting their reserve ratio. So, I mean, almost every country has set some kind of reserve ratio for their banks, okay, just to be on the safe side. But, you know, China wants to do what the U.S. did and boost the economy and get the banks to start investing and loaning more and stuff. So now they're cutting the reserve ratio for the first time in 2023 to aid recovery. What could go wrong, right? What could go wrong when banks don't need to have any reserves? Just think about that. Think about that a little bit. But this is the reason why Bitcoin has been gaining strength, because, again, people are fearful about banks. People are angry at how banks operate and how they get bailed out constantly because they're deemed too big to fail. I mean, just think about that. You get to a point where, like, let's say for you personally, you go borrow $100 billion and somehow, let's say you were granted $100 billion. Now you can't pay back the $100 billion, but the government that you borrow from now deems you too big to fail because you borrowed $100 billion, which you just wasted and burned through. Now they have to bail you out, because if they don't, the consequences of you defaulting or going bankrupt is too large. How nice. How nice. Then do you really need to be responsible anymore, right? Just keep borrowing. Just keep borrowing and get deemed too big to fail. I mean, that's awesome, right? So what's happening right now is, of course, Bitcoin is gaining strength. Today, we saw $150 million in shorts being liquidated, okay? You see all this happening, and that's fantastic. Bitcoin is gaining strength. More money is coming into this space, and more shorts are getting wrecked and getting liquidated, and that is what's happening right now. Exactly what's happening right now, okay? As the banking contagion spreads, as more distrust builds with banks in general, you have $200 billion flowing into the crypto market. And this is within, what, a week or two? We have seen a pretty tremendous recovery within the last 2 weeks, and that's because you have all this money being pulled out of the banks and put into Bitcoin, right, or crypto overall. That's exactly what's happening. And that is the reason why, actually, this is surprising, that 74% of Bitcoin holders now are in profits. Despite having a horrible 2022, people have been DCAing, have been holding, and now 74% of Bitcoin holders are in profits already. And we're only at 26,000. Imagine when we get to 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, right? So 100, the case for 100 is bullish, very, very bullish. And many people think that we will hit 100K within a year. What's within a year? Well, the halving event, right? The halving event exactly 1 year from now, which will make Bitcoin even more scarce. And that is why many people think that we will hit 100,000. Not only hit it, we will breach it, and who knows where the top will be. But here's the interesting thing. Here's a pattern that Charles found. The bump and run reversal. Take a look. This is a textbook kind of pattern, something that Wall Street whales, they could detect, and sometimes they cause this to happen, right? And where's Bitcoin? Yep, we just broke through that trend line. So this is another reason why we could hit 100,000, but mainly because the fundamentals are great, stronger than ever. We still have the halving event coming up, and now we have so much fear and distrust in the banks. These are all great things that will propel Bitcoin upwards and forwards, and that is why we're all in the game. It's really that simple. Another chart for you guys. This is the pi indicator, and again, when we have Bitcoin crossing through and making a crossover with the pi cycle indicator, very good things happen. 8,000% run, then you have a 1,400% run. What will we see this time? 1,000% run, 800%, right? We don't know, but this is clearly a very bullish signal. As well as this, here's another one called a rider band. Again, just showing a lot of crossovers and measuring bottoms. And of course, we had a pretty bad bottom basically all of 2022, right? And even the very beginning of 2023. And whenever you come up from bottom, well, very good things happen, right? So this is why we're in the game. Something else that's somewhat positive, it was negative and positive. Reuters reported that FDIC is forcing the next buyer of Signature Bank to not have anything to do with crypto. Now they're denying it because quite frankly, I think it's illegal for them to make that stipulation that, hey, whoever buys out Signature Bank cannot have any crypto activities. So now they're backtracking that and saying, no, we're not enforcing that at all. So I guess that's good. And of course, we got a lot of good stuff that may be coming in the near future about Gary and the SEC losing some major cases. And we may be getting the very first Bitcoin spot ETF around the corner. And we may get Ripple winning its case against the SEC. So there's those things to look forward to as well. And let's not forget, next week, we have the FOMC meeting, which I think will be zero, meaning zero rate hike, and that will be very bullish as well. So there's just a lot of stuff to be bullish about. I mean, if you can't tell, a lot of good things to be bullish about, and it's getting quite exciting. Quite exciting. Now, just a little bit of altcoin news. Polygon has just tweeted this, that their ZK EVM mainnet beta is being released on March 27th. So that's about 10 days from now, right? They already have a lot of partnerships, dApps that are going to be using ZKEM. And as far as I know, this is the first time ever that Ethereum virtual machine itself, not to chain, is being scaled with ZK rollups. And it could be quite tremendous. And Vitalik himself is going to be a guest at this ETH Global event. That's fantastic. Fantastic for Polygon. And then, I know a lot of you guys are wondering about SHIB. SHIB's burn rate has gone up 11,000% after Shibarium. But of course, there is some controversy about Shibarium and their chain ID, right? So they are going to deploy another Shibarium beta within a week to fix the chain ID. But according to one of the main devs, he was like, well, we just picked out random chain IDs, so I wasn't paying attention. That's my fault. But this caused a lot of controversy because people think that he basically just copy and pasted code, which he did not. Regardless, they're going to fix that problem, but we'll see what Shibarium can do. This is still beta, right? We'll see how many dApps come aboard and what kind of usage they bring to Shib's ecosystem. There you go. There you go. Overall, the market cap went up to 1.14 trillion, almost 6% gain today. But something else I'm noticing right now, in case you guys haven't, is Bitcoin dominance is starting to come up in a big way. Throughout 2022 and 2023, we have seen Bitcoin dominance for the most part stay low, at the low 40s, like 42%, 41%. Now it's starting to come up. In previous recoveries from bottom, Bitcoin dominance has been very, very high, up to 60, 70%, right? I don't know if we're going to see the same thing, but whenever Bitcoin leads the way, it kind of sucks up the liquidity, and it has happened before, so just keep that in mind. But right now, we could definitely see Bitcoin is gaining a lot of strength right now, which is good because Bitcoin is the big daddy, the biggest crypto, the oldest crypto, and the one that will lead us past all the nonsense, right? So it's good to see Bitcoin gain strength, but if you're worried about the alts, strength will come back. It always does. The money always flows into them afterwards, so keep that in mind. But right now, Bitcoin dominance is definitely going up and up and up and up and up right now. And then let's see, the U.S. market is, of course, red. And then you still have First Republic Bank getting weaker, down 19%. You got Credit Suisse getting weaker, down 8%. There's no confidence in these banks right now. None. They're not going to regain it by getting a bailout, right? All right, let's do some Q&A. All right, let me scroll up. Welcome, 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 guys. Almost 5,000 people. People are excited today. Excited to see banks fail. Excited to see crypto rallying, Bitcoin rallying. I'll just keep this up. FHA approves a 40-year mortgage. Unfortunately, real estate prices have been doing this, but people's income has been basically doing this. So it's getting harder and harder to afford a home, but a 40-year mortgage seems quite ridiculous. But yeah. FTX just took the bank's traditional approach, basically. But you could see how that ended up for FTX, right? But somehow banks are okay. Mr. Day in the Park, you're welcome. I don't hear anyone talk about this, and I don't hear Powell being asked about this. This would be, if I ever get invited to FOMC like Q&A, this would be like my question. Like, okay, you guys reduce the reserve requirements, so banks are more greedy, has become more greedy than ever. Now, way too leveraged, and they're going under. So what did you expect, right? Did you expect banks to be more responsible? So I would I would pose that question to Powell, and I want to see. I want to see how he responds, and I don't see why this hasn't been put back to normal. At least put that 10%, not at 0%. I don't. I still don't know why. Tiberius, this is why I became my own bank back in 2020. But did you borrow $100 billion like these guys? Um, let's see. NMCT BDC broke 25.2 resistance. SVB filed bankruptcy. Okay. How much more can bullish? I think it could get more bullish. I mentioned about the two things: Ripple winning its case, Bitcoin ETF getting approved. Those two things would be absolutely huge, absolutely huge. So waiting for those two news to break. Not Eli says not quite sure I trust Fidelity with crypto yet. Your thoughts? Well, it is a centralized exchange. Keep that in mind. They are not allowing you to withdraw. Okay, so you can't self custody your own crypto if you're using Fidelity at this point. They say they're going to allow you to withdraw your crypto in the future, but right now, not so much. So still not as good as saying buying on Coinbase and withdrawing into your own wallet. You know, still at best. Speaking of Coinbase, back to $70, looking good. Went up to it was like $30, went up to 80, went down to 50, now it's up to 70, right? It's just go fluctuate crazily as Bitcoin kind of fluctuates. But Bitcoin's gaining strength, Coinbase will gain strength. BLT, no, I don't think it's going to affect the bull run at all. That's my opinion because there will be always new ways to on ramp and off ramp fiat. Is this time to deploy cash and go 8% cash? Where you, Dan? I don't know what you're talking about. 8% cash. You should always have your cash reserves, in my opinion, and this is what I follow, between like 20, 25, 30%. You know, that's what I'm thinking. You have a good amount to continue to DCA and to buy the dips, and you keep going with this ratio, right? I don't know. I think it. You know, I think it's a really good plan because, say, you want to take profits too. Your portfolio starts going up in a major way. You don't know when to take profits. Well, if you see your cash pile percentage becoming less, like it's now 15% or 10% or even 5%, well, that means you should take some profit and booster that, right? So I don't know. That's what I'm doing. Not suggesting that you do that, but that makes sense to me. Dollar backed by BDC, Alan, that would be crazy. Or just replace the dollar. You don't need a dollar to be backed by anything. You just need BDC to be the reserve currency of the world. They'll solve all problems. Think about it. If BDC becomes the reserve currency of the world, no country can try to influence it. Right now, all the reserve currencies have been from a country which could be influenced by monetary policy and influenced by central banks, right? And eventually they have all failed being the reserve currency because something else better comes along. With Bitcoin, it's neutral. It's not controlled by any central bank or country. It's actually, if you think about it, the best currency to be the world's reserve currency. That would be wild. That would be wild. I don't know if that's ever going to be, but if it happens within the next 100 years, that would be wild. Brent, you know what? I think it's 50-50. Powell could do 25 basis points or he could do zero. I think he's going to do zero. I think it's better to be cautious at this point than not cautious. Okay, having bank run of all the banks is much worse than pausing a rate hike. So that's how I feel. But of course, look at this prediction. It's still 73% chance. That's 25 basis points, right? But I think he's going to be more dovish. I mean, if I was him, I would be. I'm like, the banks are starting to fail, you know? And look at it. Within the first week, how many banks? They won't tell you who borrowed. But of all the banks out there, 165 billion was borrowed by these banks. That kind of shows you how fearful the situation is, right? With banks and people of banks too. So, I mean, if I was Powell, I would be like, screw it. I just pause the rate hike for now, let things cool down, and then if needed, the next FOMC meeting, let's raise it. That's how I would do it. But I'm not Powell, so I don't know. But I still think it's zero. But I could be wrong. If it's 25 basis points, so what? I don't think anyone is going to really bat an eye over that. But I do think this target, his previous target was 5%. And then now some people think it has gone up to 6%. I think that target has been lowered. Whatever was in his mind probably has been lowered. Don't need a wallet when it's Fidelity. Steve, I get your point because it is Fidelity, but that goes against, the whole concept of not your keys, not your crypto. It goes against not trusting centralized institutions like Fidelity. So yes, they're probably not going to go away, but still, if all this, if all this has taught us anything, like all this, like the bank stuff right now that I'm talking about, is that you should be safeguarding your own crypto, right? Bitcoin is at 26.5, a little bit lower than this morning, but still much higher than yesterday. What is the U.S. market at? Oh, Coinbase is rocketing up 6%. U.S. market, NASDAQ turned green. That's good. That's good. But Dow, S&P is still down. I don't know about older generation. I think it's more like the retail investors are used to a certain platform, like, stock trading platform. I think it's more of an easier transition for them. And who traditionally trades stocks? Probably the older generation. So inadvertently, yes, I think that's true. Alan, it's a 49.51% issue. This is the race in the game. Dollars a dying currency. To save Rome, you need digital gold at this point in history. It's a race. China has its own CBDC, so they've lost at the moment. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Robert, I do agree with you. XRP or Ripple win and GBDC slash Grayscale win would really, those two things are imminent. And if they happen, they will propel Bitcoin and crypto up even further. Um, those could be the two catalysts to push Bitcoin back up to like 40,000. There's a lot of charts that show that we're getting ready to hit 40 or 50,000 by June or July of this year, right? And those two things could definitely help propel us to those levels. Yep. All right. Anything else? Keith says each one of those banks have a Sam Bankman-Fried. That's a different Bankman. That's a little bit smarter and gets away with it. Well, sometimes they don't get away with it, but uh, but if they're too big to fail, then they kind of do, right? So if you're a bank, the key is to get to a point where you're deemed too big to fail. That's the key. And then you just get bailed out. It's okay, and then it's business as usual. Hey, Coinbase is still doing really good. What's Tesla doing? I haven't looked at Tesla for a while. Tesla is barely moving today. Not a whole lot of excitement with Tesla recently. It's all on Bitcoin right now. Who knows? Tonight, I mean, we shattered 27 this morning, right? Tonight, if we continue forward, can we see 28, 29 tonight? Man, that would be amazing. But today's Friday, so I'm not streaming tonight. Unless we crack like 28, 29, maybe I'll do a stream, but I mean, there's a really good chance, in my opinion. But even if we don't, so what? We're heading in the right direction. And 100,000 is just the beginning. Steve Dawson says, why aren't altcoins pumping 50% or more? Because it's a BTC rally right now. Whenever there's a rally off bottom, it's usually Bitcoin. Alts don't really move until like the tail end of a cycle. That's how it's always been. Now, recently, of course, a lot of alts have come up from bottom, but they don't really pump traditionally until after Bitcoin like peaks out. That's how it's always been. I think this cycle is going to be a little bit different. There's a lot more strength in alts. There's a lot more strength and utility in alts, but when the market rally, Bitcoin leads the way. All right, guys, I'll let you go. Enjoy your gains for today. Bitcoin is up, crypto is up, everything's up except banks. Banks continue to crash because why should they go up? Why would anyone want their money in a bank that was just bailed out? Right? The answer is no one. That's why we're in Bitcoin. When the reserve requirement of this fractional banking is at zero, you're incentivizing the banks to be greedy and highly leveraged. So should we be surprised that they are having problems now, right? The answer is no. So that's why the whole system is a house of cards, or you could say a Ponzi scheme that will collapse someday. And we're starting to see that. So that's why if you want to opt out, you want to hold Bitcoin. So stay strong, my friends. Smash up the like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys, if not tonight, tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, okay? But if we have some kind of crazy rally, then I'll be streaming tonight. Either way, enjoy your day, and I do have something to show you guys before I leave. Take a look.
What do you think about Ripple?
Well, I mean, I think it's too centralized, but I definitely want to meet Chris Larson.